Okay, welcome back to Victor's Volkswagens. So today what we have to reluctantly do is replace the water pump on the Alltrack. So when we first bought the car, I think it was around 30,000 miles, the water pump started leaking. It was under warranty. Took it into Volkswagen. They said they replaced a hose or something, got it home. It was still leaking, brought it back. They ended up replacing the whole water pump. So that was at 30,000 miles. We're at 95,000 miles now, and it started leaking. So I went online to find out because I heard there was an extended warranty. I called Volkswagen. So unfortunately, the warranty on the water pump was extended. It was extended to 80,000 miles. So if you've got Alltrack, Mark 7, I think they're all going to be under that same extended warranty. Check your water pump. If you're right at 70,000, 75,000, see if it's leaking. If you see any white residue, take it in. Tell Volkswagen you want it replaced. But once you hit 80,000 or a certain amount of years, I can't remember what the years were. 7 years, 80,000 miles, something like that. But we were over the years and we were over the mileage. So I'm doing it myself. Watched a video last night on it from the Humble Mechanic. He has a really good video on doing this. So if you want to watch his video, I'll post a link to it. But if you want to watch me struggle through it and see all the frustrations that I deal with doing this, it doesn't look that hard, but there's a lot of stuff that does need to come off. I'm just going to go ahead and film the whole thing. I'll have Keller edit it out. It is kind of cold today, so I might have to take a couple breaks and cut it, and then turn the heater on for a while, warm the garage up, and get back to it. But I won't leave anything out where I'm totally screwing up. Unless it's just ridiculous amount of time, then we'll cut it out. But I'll explain what went wrong in that. So basically, for all the parts I had to get, I did some research. And like I've said before in some of my videos, I don't have tons of expendable income. I can't just take this to Volkswagen. I don't know what they would charge. They'd probably charge $1,500, maybe more, to do this. And I'd rather not pay them that money. I don't want to break out the credit card and pay them to do it when I can do it for, so many hundreds of dollars. So I did a bunch of research, and I found this kit. They have kits at ECS Tuning, FPC Euro, Deutsche Auto Parts, all Blah Auto Parts, the Parts Place, all the bigger ones on the internet. But I wanted to try to find the parts as cheap as possible. So I did a bunch of research. So first of all, I just want to mention, if you're using orange hand cleaner, throw it away right now. These here, and we keep plugging these. Me and Keller like to plug these because we use these all the time. These Tubbo towels you can get on Amazon. This one here is a 90 count. I think it was $15. You can buy them in bulk. You can buy like 10 of these, and I think the price goes down to like $12 per 90. Once you start using these, you won't go back to orange hand cleaner. I have orange hand cleaner when I ran out of these a couple weeks ago, and immediately got on Amazon and ordered them. So just wanted to keep plugging these because these are the greatest towels. So the kit that I ended up going with, I found on eBay. So there is a supply warehouse about 30 minutes from our house called Gasket German Parts. So if you've ever been on eBay looking for parts, you've probably stumbled onto Gasket German Parts. They are a large warehouse parts distributor here in Gresham, Oregon. And me and Keller just stumbled onto them about a month ago. And we got to walk through their warehouse. They ended up getting, I think it was a company called Eurowise, which was out of California. They ended up buying their whole inventory. So their warehouse right now is just packed full of tote after tote. Pallet after pallet after pallet of parts that they're sorting through. But they do sell on eBay. And their kit was about $100 cheaper than anybody else online. And what I ended up going with, and this is kind of interesting because this company here, INA, they make water pumps. And what I found out is that And if you go on ECS's website, when you look at water pumps, they have some kits that are like, for the water pump alone, like $180. And then other kits, when they're like, you know, $290, $300. I think the one from Volkswagen was, you know, $329 maybe. Okay, so this company, INA, and on ECS's website, what it says on this particular brand, that it's OEM. And I couldn't find too much information, but when I went to Cascade German Parts to pick up these parts, I was talking to the gentleman that owns the company, and he did tell me that INA is the supplier for Volkswagen. He said there was another distributor that he knew where INA sent them water pumps and forgot. They sent them the wrong ones. And they were the ones that were supposed to go to Volkswagen. They went to an independent distributor, and they had Volkswagen and the emblems printed on the plastic part of the thermostat housing, and they had to get a hold of that company and say, whoa, 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 we need those back. Those were supposed to go to Volkswagen. So this is the original equipment supplier to Volkswagen, and it's INA. So this water pump kit here was $240 from Cascade German Parts, and I will post the link to their site and the eBay site that I got it. So what it includes is the water pump, which includes the, here's the water pump here, the metal housing, and this is the thermostat housing. So if you haven't seen one of these, it's pretty crazy, but basically what I understand is that this water pump only supplies water when needed. I would imagine there's got to be some electric valves in here. So, you know, when the heater's not on, it's not pumping more fluid to the heater. It's supposed to be more fuel efficient. It's pretty elaborate, but kind of a neat idea, not having to pump water where you don't need to pump it, and applying so much energy onto the water pump. So this comes with the thermostat housing, which is this huge plastic piece, the water pump, which is this piece here, and then it also comes with the belt that powers it. So this is powered off the intermediate shaft off the motor. It has a little sprocket on it, and it goes obviously up to the water pump. And then this is actually the little bolt that goes to the pulley that goes into the intermediate shaft. So this is a reverse thread bolt. So these three parts come with the kit here. But what you're also going to need to get is this little union. So this goes from the water pump into another part of the housing, I think that has some of the hose connections. It's a whole nother like plastic unit. This particular one came from Euro parts, and this one is aluminum. They also make these in plastic. But the gentleman at Cascade German told me this is kind of the go-to ones because the plastic ones can crack. So I bought that separate. I think this was anywhere from $10 to $15. I wasn't able to print out my receipt. I just opened up an account with them, and I couldn't get it online. But I'll try to post a link to this. They also sell this on ECS's website. They have plastic ones and this aluminum one. So this is the union. And then I also, out of precaution, got the intake manifold gasket. So I'm going to pull the intake manifold off. You know, I've done a couple of these, like on Jonathan's Mark 6. These things seem pretty fine after years and years, but hey, you can't go wrong for $23. This was included. I got that from Cascade German also. Just nice to have a fresh one. So we're going to pull the intake off. We'll show you. I'll show you how dirty it is. So we got 95,000. This one's going to probably need the intake valves cleaned. Not quite ready to do that right now. I'm going to do that in January. We're in the middle of December right now. But in January, I am going to probably buy a walnut blaster and walnut blast that and do a whole nother video. But I'll show you how dirty they are. I'm sure they're going to be caked. They don't have any codes, any like lean misfire codes, and that's usually what happens when the intake valves get really, really caked up. You start getting lean misfire codes. I haven't got anything like that. And then also got some coolant. Xerox. So a thing on the coolant, I was doing some research, and this coolant bottle on the car says G13. So what G13 is Volkswagen's newest coolant that is biodegradable. I think it's non-toxic. It's supposed to last longer. But I didn't know if we could mix certain coolants. So I'm going to post a video that FPC Euro did on coolant and which ones can be mixed, which ones can't be mixed. So this one from Xerox G40. So G40 is Xerox, I believe their designation, like Volkswagen G13, G12++. But this meets specs for Mercedes and Volkswagen. So this is good to go. And I checked it out. This can be mixed with G13. So G++ can be mixed with G13, and it's safe to do so. I'll post the link to the video they do, FPC Euro. It's a really good video on all the different numbers and all the different codes and all that stuff. So I'll post that. So that's all of the parts that we got. I got. Keller's not here today. He's working on his car. His Rabbit is down, but he's working on it. So I'll just go through the tools. And let me see. Let's post this down here. Okay. So what you're going to need to do this is a torque wrench that goes down to, it needs to be, for the water pump bolts, it needs to be 9 Newton meters. So this one's a real small one. A screwdriver. Okay, 2 pick tools. So I got these 2 pick tools. Didn't have these until last week. These are the pick tools that they use. You've probably seen people doing radiator hoses, where if you have a tight radiator hose that's been on there a long time, you can take these pick tools and get behind the hose and kind of wring it so that you can loosen it up. So I wanted to get these and give those a try. I've been using screwdrivers, and sometimes it's a pain in the butt. These 2 were $9 on Amazon, super cheap, but they look real good. I think they'll be fine. You're gonna need a pick tool with about a 90-degree angle on it, because some of the connectors, there's a little tab that you need to pull out to pull the connector out. So I've got that. This is the spring clamp tool for removing the spring clamps. You'll see me using that. A 17 wrench, 13-inch wrench, 12-inch wrench, 10mm 1/4-inch drive socket, 7mm 1/4-inch drive socket with the 1/4-inch ratchet, T30 Torx, T25 Torx, long extension, 3/8-inch ratchet, and that's for this, which is the T10? Yeah, T10 triple square. So you'll need that. And I have a set, and I can post this. I got these on Amazon. These are all the triple squares you probably ever need to work on a Volkswagen. So I'll post the link to this. Cheap. It's a cheap kit, but they're good quality. They're not like garbage. They're good. And then last thing is some dielectric grease. And that was to put on the union, the aluminum union, to slide those O-rings in so they don't get too tight. Sometimes when you're sliding O-rings in, you got to be careful. You want to put a little bit of lubricant on them. I've got some plumber's lubricant that also works good. I saw Charles the Humble Mechanic. He was using dielectric grease. He just gets them to slide on so they don't like pop out of their spot. Because if you like force it on and that O-ring pops out, you put this whole thing together, it's going to leak and you have to take all this stuff back out. So those are all the tools I think I'm going to need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get underneath the vehicle. I'll move the camera and I'm going to remove the lower radiator hose, supposedly on the Alltrack, which is a little bit different than the GTI. Removing the lower radiator hose is supposed to flush out most of the coolant in the radiator and in the system. So I'm going to move the camera, I'll get underneath there, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention. So I'm about ready to pull that lower radiator hose. So I've got this container that I got at a garage sale. I think basically what it is, and I've seen these, this looks like something you'd see in a restaurant where they're taking dishes back to the dishwasher. And so I looked it up on Amazon, commercial dishwashing I don't know, pan or whatever it was. And I found them. These are really nice because they've got sturdy handles on the sides and a sturdy rim. So when you want to go pour it into like a funnel or a container. So the ones I found on Amazon, you can get 3 of these. And the profile is nice and low. So you can get it underneath the car. You know, it's not like a tote. But these work great for the radiator because radiator fluid wants to not only spray out and splash. If you have just an oil drain pan, more than likely you're going to miss it. It's going to get all over the floor. So this is going to work really good. I'll post a link to them. The ones on Amazon, you can get 3 of these for $24. I'm sure you can buy them individually for, I don't know, like 12, 15 bucks. So I'll post that. I just wanted to mention that before we go ahead and start draining. Okay, so I'm underneath the car. Okay, so here, right here, is the lower radiator hose, and it's got a metal clip. So it's got a little plastic housing on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that metal clip backwards. It's going to go off to the right. I'll get a screwdriver. We'll pull it off, and then we'll slowly wiggle it off. And then drain it. It looks like there might be an electrical connector I might have to get off first. So let me mess with the electrical connector on the top. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like, yeah, that little wire on the top. So it looks like an electrical connector. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off first, and then we're going to go ahead and take that clip off. We'll slowly wiggle that off, and then we're going to go ahead and drain it into the tub. What's going on here? Tub ready. See if I can't get this clip off of here. Okay, so the clip is off. Now we're going to go make a huge mess probably, but we're going to give this a shot here. Let's get our tub underneath here. I'm going to get my pry bar so I can pry that housing off. Pry bar. Let me go from the top, make sure that clip is all the way off. Yeah, it's all off. It might be easier. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll bring that hose down here. Okay. Yeah, pull the cap off of the expansion tank. Splashing all over. Let that drain for a while, so that's how you get that. Didn't get as much coolant as I want, so I don't know if there's another hose down here that I can get to. Should be more coolant coming out from that. The tank is empty, but maybe I'll just keep draining. And we could run some compressed air through here. Maybe we can get that to blow more out. Let's see. Don't know if this will work. That's right. more coolant coming out now, a little compressed air. Quite a bit. Okay, so now we're back up top. So what I did, and I'll show everybody, basically what I did to get the rest of the anti-coolant out, because the coolant was not wanting to, barely, I think we maybe had like less than a half a gallon, is I just basically put this towel on here and I took my air and I covered it up and I blew air in here and it blew most of it out. It looks like I might have a couple gallons in there, which is, I think, would be the full amount. So that seemed to work good. This, from what I understand, and somebody can correct me if I'm not, that this is a self-bleeding system. So when we fill it up, basically what I've done with some of these Volkswagen ones, and this could be different, but basically if you just start pumping some of these hoses, getting the air out, it should bleed itself out. It might take a while. It might take a couple drives for it too, but as long as you're keeping some coolant in here, and we're not running it dry. I've seen some of the pressurized systems. The Humble Mechanic has a funnel that goes on here and he fills it up and then they run the engine and it keeps filling it up. It's supposed to be some kind of like a pressurized system. It's supposed to work really well. I've never had any issues with air bubbles on any Volkswagen before, and from the other videos I've seen some on Jettas, 1.5 Jettas and other ones. They all talk about it being a self-bleeding system, so that's what we're going to hope. So basically, we're going to get started here. Pull the beauty cover off. We're going to take this air box out. Here's the nice tool. So if you don't have one of these tools, these work great for getting these clamps off. Make sure you put the clamp in a good position somewhere. If you put it right here, I've stuck it here before. This is really soft. This is a little bit harder right here. It can start crushing this section here. So put it in an area where the plastic's harder. And then this will come right off. This, you just pinch these come off. There's a little vacuum hose right here that comes off, and then this whole unit is held on by 3 grommets. Sometimes you need to spray some silicone spray onto these grommets. I just had this one off about a week ago. Basically, you just pull them up, and then on this Alltrack, it has this weird little funky thing here. Make sure you don't tear that or break that. It'll want to catch on some of this in the wiring down here, so just kind of fiddle it up. That comes right off. Okay, and I made a list here from Charles, the Humble Mechanics, things of what to take off. So the first thing he took off was this hose. Just come out of all these little areas here, and this little connector. And on these Volkswagen connectors, sometimes you have to press the connector in, and then you see this right here, you want to pull, see how that pulls that back? If they've been on here a long time, if you press the connector down and then pull this back, it makes them a lot easier to come off. Tuck that out of the way here. And okay, so that's off, and I think we can take this clip off. Okay, so that's this little clip. You just pull on this tab, and it's kind of got this ratcheting, like a zip tie mechanism that holds this whole thing down. And then the next thing is going to be this connector, and I'm going to get a rag so I don't make a huge mess. Let me get a nice one that's not so damp. Okay, a couple extras here in case it starts spuging out. I think we should be drained here. Yeah, that sucker's on there. So, and then one thing I forgot, we need to do this first. So let me do that real quick. So this whole little unit comes out of here. Hook that hose out. And then this is a little Torx. I think that's a Torx. I don't know if it's this size or not. Yeah. Okay, another little hack, and I've said this in my other videos. These are T25 bits. This particular one is for those deck screws that you see at Home Depot everywhere. And these fit right into these little DeWalts. These are perfect. And most of these Volkswagens have these here. And this one's a captive nut, so you're not going to lose it. Let's come up. It looks like there's two here. These come out. Goes on my cart. And then I believe, yeah. So right here, you just lift up, and that's going to release this little tab that's right there that fits right up in here. You just lift up, pull it out. Okay. And then this whole piece here now comes out. So that gives us a ton of room there. Okay, so here's where those pick tools, this is what I'm going to try. So these little pick tools, this one might be too big. This is a small hose. But the way that these pick tools kind of work is you're able to kind of get these in here. Don't want to puncture it, but you can kind of start getting it kind of moving, freed up. These work really good for the bigger hoses, but I think I'll be able to get this one. But what ends up happening is these things just get in here for so long. You can kind of see how you can see how you do that right there. These are really cool for that. Get that in here better. You can kind of go all the way around this thing. That's going to end up freeing this hose up. Boy, yeah, these things are on here. This is a metal hose, so you can probably get away with pulling on that. If it was plastic, I would be really leery to one. There we go. Okay, so it's completely drained. That one came off really easy. So now we've got this. And what we'll do is we'll bungee. Actually, this might just sit right there, kind of out of the way. We'll pin it in here. As long as it's, there we go. It's going to stay out of the way. That's the fuel hose that goes to the high pressure fuel pump. Okay, upper fuel line, upper coolant hose, and we've got two T30s that hold this coolant pipe on. So that's these two right here, this one here and this one here. And if you want, you can just put these back in this location. That way, you're not on your cart and you're forgetting where they went and looking for them. So just thread them back in there so they don't come out. Okay, so now we got this free. Okay, then we got to disconnect the throttle body. So we got this connector here. It's going to come right off there. Throttle body. One thing I've done in the past, and I might do it on some of these. Grab something here. So, probably did not need to do it for this. But sometimes I'll take like some blue tape like this or some colored tape. And if there's a connector that I've forgotten, I'll just put a little bit of tape on it. And that way it sticks out, and that way I don't forget to put it back on. I mean, these are pretty darn obvious. And then we've got this little connector there. This one just grabs on, is it's got 2 teeth, and it's got this little plastic piece right here. You just pull that off of that, so then that one's free. But yeah, a little tape on there. It's like my little friendly reminder, don't forget this one. If there's a lot of electrical ones, or like when we were working on Keller's car and we had a whole bunch of wires that we still hadn't wired up, I'd put tape on them so that I wouldn't miss them. Okay, and then we got a bunch of these. Some of these connectors, I don't know how they come on here. It's the same kind of thing. Okay, it's like a regular Volkswagen connector. Okay, that one. And then, so this one here, I don't know if you guys can see it. Let's see what we're looking at there. Okay, well, I'm just going to point to it. It's very obvious. It's got a little gray tab, and then that's where this little hook comes in. What you do is you just, I believe, this gets pulled out. I don't want to pull it all the way out, but it just pops out into a position, and then you should be able to get that one off. Okay, maybe it's not all the way out. Maybe it's got to come a little bit farther. You'll see it. Sure looks like it's out. There it is. Okay. So, what I'll do is I'll show you this. It's this little gray tab. So when it's pushed in this direction, it's locked. What you do is take this clip and you pull it out. So this is the open position where it's not locked in. So that's that little connector. Okay, now we've got throttle connector, these 2 here, that little one. I believe there might be one more. Yes, there's one more. Where's a clip? Let me get my light so I can see. I don't know if we can get to that one right now. I might need to get to that one from the bottom. Basically what this one has is it looks like it's this upper inlet pipe. It's a rubber hose. Got to do that because we're not going to be able to pull the manifold off without that. Screwdriver. If not, I'll use that. Oh yeah, we got it. Upper inlet tube. It's rubber. It's like a hose. And I was watching Charles' video on this from the Humble Mechanic, and I believe he takes this whole thing off of here. Gives you more room to work, makes it a little bit easier to get the manifolds off. So that's super loose now. And I believe he takes this off from the bottom. See if I can see down there this. It's connected. Okay, I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay, so now here's the charge pipe. I just wanted to show it out and up here. So there's the 2 fasteners, and it's basically up underneath there. You got to also unplug that connector, and then this was the upper hose that goes right there to the throttle body. This one came off pretty easy. I just kind of pried down on it with a screwdriver, and this one came off really easy. So just wanted to show you that. That's going to free up a ton of room. It's going to make it way easier. Okay. Okay. So I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. But you didn't really miss anything. The only thing that I've done since the last recording was just take out the bolts for the intake manifold. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. On this side over here, there's a little electrical connector. It's got the little gray tab. All you have to do is pull the little gray tab back, press in on it, and that electrical connector comes right off. And it's just sitting there, and then underneath that is another nut. So I've gotten all those off. The problem I'm having now, so I've got that this nut here. This goes to the high pressure fuel pump. This had to come off. That's a 17, so I've got that off. But now I'm caught. So I still have this vacuum line here that needs to come off. And there's another nut down here that's holding this on. I can't get to this lower fuel line. So the high pressure fuel line's right here, and it snakes down underneath this unit here. And I can't seem to get a wrench on it. So I'm hoping that I've got one last nut right here that should come off. Let's try to get that off next. Pretty sure that's a T30. So this is what I did here. Let's see if you can see that. So to get all those T30s off for the intake manifold, I put a little bit of electrical tape to hold the socket. Makes it a little bit easier so that it doesn't pop off and get stuck down in there. And then I also used a magnet. Here's my magnet to get them out of there so that you can loosen them all. They're super long. They'll just sit in there. And then once they're all loose, you can take a magnet like this. This one worked really well because it's skinny, and you can get in there and you can pull all those nuts out. But there's still one more nut in here. So I got to get that one. So I'm going to pull this off of here. I should have probably, well, should have try something different. Let's see if we can get this thing. So let me just cut it off with a razor knife. Go ahead and slice this tape off here. There we go. All right, I think with this little extension, let me get a longer extension. They could have made this a little bit easier. It's got a lot of stuff. If this vacuum, looks like some kind of a vacuum booster, had, let's see, how am I going to get to this one? I might have to. So we got this bracket here. I'm going to try to take this off. Okay, so this nut holds this charge plate. Maybe if I get this off, I can slide this forward a little bit. Okay, that's captive. One nice thing about these plastic pieces, a lot of them, they have some captive nuts. So it looks like it comes off just enough to where you can pull this back and get this one. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, this one had to come off to get this back on. This one goes into the intake manifold, and that's the one right there that caused it. So what I'm having to do with these, I don't think this one's captive, is I get my little magnet down here, and then that way, when it comes out, I lose it down into the engine bay and get stuck. So here it comes. Oh, sure enough, it did exactly what I didn't want it to do. Okay. So I told you I was going to film all of the chaos, and that's the first little bit of chaos that we had. Let's see, where would that have too. Lovely. You know, this is usually what happens, and everybody edits this stuff out. I'm not editing it out. You get to see my F-ups. So I dropped that nut down in there. So I found out why the intake manifold wasn't coming off, and it's because of this bracket. This one right here underneath that bolt. Can't see there. There you go. It's right here. So this thing needs to be, see how it's loose? You can see how it's loose. So you have to loosen it from underneath. This needs a little bit of play. You don't need to take it off completely because it'll be hard to get it back in, but it just needs to be loosened, and I'll show you where that's at. Okay. So right here is the loosened nut. Okay, take number 5. Okay, so what ended up needed to be done, and I apologize, I thought I was recording and I wasn't, but I'm going to go back to what I did. So this vacuum line goes back to here. This has to come off with the manifold. It goes into this location right here. You just pop it, pops right off. But it was fed underneath this high pressure fuel line right here. So I had to undo this T30 to get enough play to lift this up, and then I pulled this out. This goes underneath here. It's just tucked down in here, but it's so tight, I could probably push it in if I really wanted to. So I just took the T30 and just loosely tightened it back in. And then underneath here was the high pressure fuel line. I apologize, but this basically was down here. It's what I was showing before, but basically it was down in here, and what I had to, and this is also sandwiched, this grommet is sandwiched between the intake manifold and this bracket that's on here. So got the top undone, and then I was able, and this is how it sits in here like this, and then it was down in here, and I'll show you how that sits in there once I get this off. So if I can get it off. Okay, so I think, okay, we're hitting a connector. We got one more connector right here. Oh, there's so many connectors. Okay, so this is one of those connectors, got the little gray thing, and it's just going to come back. So the gray piece. Okay, I don't know what is going on with my phone. I'm getting really pissed off. For some reason, it recorded like 9 minutes of the last video, and then it cut off. I have no idea why. But basically what I had to do was right here is this plug. There's 2 holes right here. One here, one here. 2 T25s that go up into the intake manifold. I was able to get the front one from the front, and this one from underneath, how you kind of have the manifold like here, and to get those 2 out. And now I'm freed up. But one thing I always like try to do, and I'm going to do this real quick here. Okay, so I finally got the intake manifold off. I cannot find the gray clip that goes to that connector. It is locked in position. It's not coming out of there. But I'm going to have to try to find another gray clip for that. I'm probably just going to leave that on there until I do the walnut blasting on the intake valves and chambers. So I'll probably just leave that for now. But I think before I do the walnut blasting in January, I'm going to go ahead and get another one of those plugs and then pull that little gray clip off. I don't like how Volkswagen has those to where when they pop off, if you pull them a little bit too hard, they're going to fly off of there. And it is somewhere in the abyss down here. I'll keep looking a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to show the intake valves. And they're bad, but not. Let's see if I can get some light in here. Let's do this here. Here we go. So they're not pretty. Let's see, not getting a really good shot here, but they're not terrible. If you can see, you can still see a little bit of golden on the bottoms there. Let's see if yeah, you can kind of see in there. But yeah, they need to be cleaned for sure. But they're not as bad as some of them I've seen. Definitely up top, but where the valves are themselves, they're actually pretty clean. So I think that has a lot to do with changing your oil more often. I think every 5,000, that's what I do, is going to help. Maybe I think when your oil gets just caked, I think your deposits are going to get just worse. In fact, you can see that valve down there, and the number one cylinder is actually in the open position. So thank God nothing went down in there like a screw or something. But yeah, so these little plates come out of here. You can clean these. I'm not too concerned about them. They're not like terribly bad, but those do come out. I did vacuum some pine needles that fell down in there. I did clean the surface. I'll stick a couple of rags in there so we don't accidentally do drop something in there. So yeah, make sure that when you're doing these, you can maybe pull all those out, throw some towels in there while you're doing the water pump. So basically where we're at now is we're finally down to the water pump. The water pump is right there. Here was that electrical plug. So I was able to get this fastener from the front when I had the manifold kind of level in the level position. And then I raised the back of the manifold to get to this one. Here's where the high pressure fuel line connected. Once you get everything disconnected and you get a little bit of movement, you can easily get to that one. I'm kind of wondering if I even needed to take that off, but for some reason the humble mechanic Charles said to take it off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is reposition the camera so you guys can watch me get to this water pump. It's right there. So we got these connectors that go to it, and then we're going to unbolt it and see. So we don't have like a catastrophic leak. I did see where it was leaking. I'll show you. It's on the bottom where the water pump connects to the thermostat housing. It was dripping. It was to the point where you could smell it. And it's so weird because it kind of was dripping, and it was on the belly pan when I would pull it down, and then it stopped dripping. So I think it kind of got caked up with some of that white sediment, and it kind of like stopped leaking itself. But I didn't want to take any chances. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and finish taking this out. Okay, so we're back. So I'm going to get a little bit more. I'll put this connector. There's a bunch of cord. We got the grab the bottom here. Get a little more room. Okay, sorry to get those off. So I have the drain pan underneath. Then we go ahead and pop off these hoses. Let's see what I'm going to do first. Let's see what we can do. You just pop back like that. That's what you can see. So we bring that one, blow that thing out. Really see help. Take that one off, and then we'll get one more. A little smaller screw right there. This one. There we go. Got it. Okay, that's how we're going on that one. It's a little tight here, but aren't sure. That is for sure. Easy to get these down. I don't think I can. It's not what you need to, but I'm going to try to this last little one. Use those clips. That little one, you know, they're not captive, they stay captive. So now that one fell off, and it's on the reed. Oh my god, it fell in the radiator. Oh my god, it's crazy. It's down in the fan. I'll go get the magnet. But oh, that is insane where it fell. Holy crap. Oh my god. It was in the radiator fan housing, sitting on top, and it would have fell or rolled. I wouldn't be able to see it. And I would have had to have some kind of just to get that stupid clip. Crazy. I told you this video would be showing all the shit. Let's see this. Now I got these stupid hoses shitting away. And I didn't have to get the Lordals. I don't have the right. First thing I got off is this stupid. I'm going to move the camera to the other side when I start taking this apart. Okay. All right, so we've got this shroud, the cover for the belt, T30. There's one way down there. That one would almost be easier to get from the bottom. Let me get the top one here. Actually, let me get the bottom one. So let me show it. Well, you'll be able to see. So there's this black shroud right here. And there's one here, and there's one directly underneath it. But I'm pretty sure getting that from the bottom is going to be the easiest way because it looks pretty tight. Okay. And we'll see what else I can see when I'm down there. It looks like everything's done dripping, so that's... Oh, I think I got it. Oh my god. You bitch. Sorry for the language. Ugh. Okay. So this one was the one that went to the water pump. That was stupid. I'll show you when I get this thing out of here. Okay. So now our lovely little cover is off. Ugh. Can't wait. Okay. See if we can slide that off. I'll do that once I unbolt the water pump. So we got the 2 bolts. 1, 2, 3 up top. Looks like maybe 2 down below. See what size these are. Yeah, they're T30s. Okay, I think we're ready to unbolt the water pump. see if we're still recording. This thing kept cutting off earlier. I don't know why, but all right, this is turning into a really long video. Oop. Missed a little bit there. We'll get it cleaned up. Okay. The best way to get this out of here. Probably this fat one first. Push that stuff down. So this is the way it's going to want to kind of get back in here. Looks like. Oh, yeah, still got one. Oh, one connector. That's why. Okay, another one of these stupid gray connectors down here. Gonna pull that out first and disconnect it. Let's see if we can get this one off without blasting it to space. I think a screwdriver would look better actually. Okay, so I finally got the water pump out, and I just wanted to show these connectors with these gray clips because they're a pain in the fucking ass. So here's one intact here. This, let me get it out of focus. So this gray piece slides back. You can see how it is slidden backwards. And what happens is then you can then press on it with my thumb. I'm pressing on it. And what's happening, so you guys can see, is inside here. See how that thing is moving from the locked position there to open. So, but it won't open if that gray connector isn't slidden back. See how there's a little half moon in front of it? That is the locked position. So if you were to slide that forward, it would lock, and that would means you couldn't open this. But even with the gray connector gone, I'll try to find it. It fell somewhere. It might be down in my pan. I don't know. But they still do lock. So you're still able, and this is one so if you pry too far, let's see if it'll focus. Let's see if I can come closer. There we go. If you pry too far, it breaks. You can see the rest of the gray piece. But what you can do is you can still press down. Let's see if I can turn this way. So I'm pressing down like I did that other one. And it still opens that lock. So it's still going to go on there and it's still going to lock and it's not going to come off. The gray clip, you can see how it just barely moves on this side if I'm pressing on it. The gray piece on this side, but if I took a screwdriver on this side and see those two right by my thumb, if you press down on that fork, though, that little plastic thing, it looks like tuning fork right in front of my thumb. If you press straight down, it then opens the locking mechanism, which is right there. And I was able to press down on it with a screwdriver, and it was on there kind of tight. You know, it's got a weather seal inside there, that plastic weather seal, the gray seal. But I'll get it back on there. Because it's broken, I can't put the other gray clip back on, but I'm not ever worried about these coming unclipped because they still lock into place. You still have to press down on that black section right there. You still have to press down on it to get it to even come off. The gray clip just locks it. I guess if a mechanic was in there and they accidentally hit something, it's possible that it could slide off maybe. And that's why they put these locking mechanisms. But I'm telling you, Volkswagen, you guys need to make some better clips. Because the Japanese have clips that I have taken on and off that are so easy to come on and off. They never break. Volkswagen clips, and I've messed with these before, not these gray ones, but the other ones that are just the little black piece. You kind of put your fingernail on and you press them and you open them. I will say that on those style, if you press in, like push the plug in on itself, then press that tab like I'm kind of doing with my thumb, it will come off easier, especially if they're kind of corroded and they've been on there and there's dirt in them. You press them in, press where my thumb's at, and then pull them back out. That seems to help. I've seen a guy somewhere on the internet doing that, and that definitely helps. Press them in, press down where my thumb is, and then pull back. These are going to be the same way. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up. It's starting to almost get dark outside. It's around 5 o'clock. So I think I'm going to finish tomorrow. So where we're at tomorrow, getting this all cleaned up. There's antifreeze up and down it. It's not caked. It's not bad. It's pretty clean. Here's the two openings for the water pump. This is where that union goes into, that hole right there. That's where the union goes into. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up with Scotch-Brite tomorrow, get it cleaned up, get everything dried off, kind of flush it off with some water. But it's not like crazy corroded. It's in pretty good shape, but it definitely was leaking. So it wasn't leaking bad. Some of these are really bad, but let's see. It was dripping. It was literally dripping right. Let me see if I can get this to stay. Looked like, to me, it was kind of just starting to drip right here. And I think it's barely been dripping very long. Otherwise, this thing would be just covered. So here's that same pump manufacturer. I'm pretty sure if you look at this one that I got, let's pull it out real quick here. So this is the INA. You can see how they literally have the same sticker in the same spot, probably the same code. Let's see, F567716 yeah, literally the same code, the same barcode, made in the Czech. Does that say Czech Republic? I think so. So yeah, this is literally the factory. They just don't stamped this onto the plastic housing, but yeah, this is the same exact one. So we'll get this in tomorrow. A little bit of a pain in the ass situation. Obviously, you guys saw what I had to go through with some of this stuff. But, I'm hoping, and I know we lost some of the video. Anything, when we get this all together and Keller edits it, he does all the editing. I don't know how to do this stuff. I'm going to try to learn how to start doing it myself. I will make sure in the show notes, if there's anything I miss after I watch the video, I will make sure that I include it in the show notes. But so tomorrow what we need to do is, obviously this belt will not come off until that tooth sprocket comes off. And that is held in by a captive nut. Does this thing go all the way through? Oh, wow, that goes all the way into the bell housing. Woo-hoo. That's something I'm going to have to be real careful of. So I'm tempted to take off that, I don't know if that's a temperature switch. It looks like a temperature switch to me, more than an oil pressure switch. It could be an oil pressure switch, but it's probably a temperature. But yes, that nut down here needs to come out. It's reverse thread so that this toothed pulley can come off, and then the belt will all slide out. But to do that, I'm going to have to lock the crankshaft. So I was going to use a wrench, find out what size the bolt is. They have a special tool for locking it, but I didn't want to buy it. And that's a reverse thread, and I think it's only like 12 foot-pounds. So if I can just put something to lock the crank with like a half-inch long ratchet, maybe a block of wood or something, just to kind of lock it in place, and then I can come and take this one off. But I did notice there's a hole there that goes into the bell housing, into the transmission. It looks like it's wide open. So, boy, I want to make sure when I pull that bolt off that it does not fall into that hole. This is the crazy stuff that Volkswagen does. Just would drive you nuts if you drop that thing in there. So that would be something I'm probably going to take a piece of sheet metal and make me a plate underneath it. I'll probably take that coolant temperature sensor off of there to give me a little bit more room. And yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to clean this up, get everything ready to go, and then we'll put it together tomorrow, and I'll film the rest of it. Thanks. Okay, so it's the next day, and we're back at it. So we have to take off that tooth sprocket to get the belt off. The belt will not come off. It's got that little raised area on the outside, and it doesn't allow you to just like take the belt off and slide a new one on. It kind of is like a keeper, I guess. And so that bolt has to be loosened. That is a reverse thread nut. So instead of righty-tighty, it's righty-loosey. And then what I did because I was turning it, and then the crankshaft was just turning when I was trying to loosen it. So what I did is instead of buying the tool to lock the crankshaft, I just ended up taking a ratchet, putting it on the crankshaft bolt, and then kind of laying it on the drive shaft and then locking it into position. That is a 24 millimeter socket for that crankshaft bolt. So that's all I did to lock it. It's only set, I believe it's like 12 foot-pounds of torque, so it wasn't very tight. It's a stretch bolt. So let me get the light up here. So now we're going to go ahead and take it off. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. But one thing to note, and it's so weird, I don't know what this is, but if you look down in here, you will see a hole going into the, it's like the bell housing of the transmission. And if you drop that bolt in there, you're going to have to take the transmission off or try to get a magnet and get it out. And once it falls in there, it's going to not be easy to get out. So I think I'm going to get a little plate of cardboard or something and just kind of set it in there so when I pull that bolt out, I don't accidentally drop it in there. After yesterday's experience with the gray tabs on the connectors, yeah, I just don't want to even risk losing that bolt down there because I'm not pulling this tranny off. So yeah, just to let you know, so that's loose, and we're going to take that off, and then I'm going to get this all cleaned up, this whole area cleaned up, get some Scotch-Brite pad, clean off the mating surfaces. There's 2 dowel pins. You can see the 2 dowel pins on the top. Those look pretty clean. I'll probably just brush them off. Get that all cleaned up, and then we'll start reassembling the water pump and get it torqued down. So I'll film that next. All right, so I finally got that sprocket off of there, and it was a pain in the butt. So what I had to do is I could not get my fingers in there, and you can see I put a piece of cardboard in that hole that goes into the transmission because I did not want to drop that bolt in there. So I put that in there, it just kind of sets in there. And then what I was having to do is use my magnet to, I was using my magnet tool here, and it was using it to push. I couldn't get I could kind of get a socket in, a ratchet, not a ratchet, a wrench in there. I cannot get a ratchet in there. So I don't know. I'm not going to be able to torque it to spec. I'm going to have to hand torque it. There's no room in there. I mean, you can see there's barely any room in there. This sprocket, as you can see, it just has that, I don't know what they call that. It's kind of a taper, and then the sprocket has a taper, and then when you tighten it, it gets really tight and it won't spin. But there's really hardly any room. You can't even get your fingers in there to loosen the bolt. So I was able to loosen it with the magnet. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to make my own little custom tool. So I have this here. This fits, I've used this before for CV joints. But it's the exact fit. So this bolt, not only is it 12 millimeter, it's also triple square. You can see triple square inside there, and this fits perfectly inside that. So what I'm going to do, since I cannot get this tool because of the length of this here, I'm going to cut it about right here, right in here, and then I'm going to use my little baby ratchet. Now I think if I would have had a 12 ratchet, for some reason I've lost my 12 ratchet, that would have probably made it much easier to get it out. But can't find it, so sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this here, leave just a little bit of space. This is a little bit smaller than the baby ratchet. And I'll put like a rubber glove on here or some black tape to where it fits on there tight. And then I think I'll have just enough room to get this in, push a little bit against the bolt. And then be able to use the ratchet to go ahead and tighten it, at least get it snug. And then when I go to torque at the very end, I'll probably put a wrench on it and then just torque it down real tight. So that's where I'm at. Kind of a little bit of a pain in the ass. Sometimes when you don't have the right tools, this is what you got to deal with, but you got to improvise. So I'm going to spend a few minutes. I'm going to cut this off, and I'll go ahead and record it how it looks, and I'll record me putting the bolt back in. So, all right. Okay, take number 12. All right, so we're ready to finally get the water pump in. So we had a little issue with the union. So there's the union. This union, which is really cool because it's aluminum, it was a little bit smaller. You can see that opening there. So I think this was maybe for an earlier version, a water pump, possibly for the one like for the previous generation engine. I'm not sure. Might have got the wrong one from Cascade German, but went to Volkswagen. The other one that came out of the car fit in okay, but it was a little bit, felt loose to me. So I went to Volkswagen, got this one, and the O-rings, you can just see by looking at them, they're either bigger or they look bigger. They look wider, bigger, fatter. I don't know if the other one just shrunk because they've been compressed, but this one fits in here really nice. It seats itself good. So that was only $8 at Volkswagen. I didn't want to reuse the old one and take a risk of it leaking. I got to pull all this back off. So ran to Volkswagen, just got back. So now I'm going to go ahead and install this. Obviously, we got our new belt on. Got that torqued down. So here we go. We're going to try to get this sucker in here. It's kind of a chore to get it in. I think we went like this, if I remember right. Okay, we got our belt kind of caught in here. I can't remember if we went down with this, but we gotta pull all this stuff away here. Figure out how we can get this thing in here. Okay, we're getting closer. Okay, So Charles, the humble mechanic, said that he likes to put the belt on first, but I don't know how he was able to try to do that. Let me see if this is going to even be possible to do. Just make sure that union is still going to be in there. Boy, I don't know how he got that on. Okay, so maybe this just needs to be more in place here. Sure, union's still in there. All this stuff is really kind of tight. Okay, I think what he did is, okay, he slips this over like that. And then he puts, oh, shoot. Before we get carried away here, darn it, the union popped out. I gotta plug it in. I forgot. Okay. Let's put that off. So pull the belt off here. Okay. Yeah. Very important to make sure you get this thing plugged in. Find the plug was for this now. Where's the? Look at the other one. Okay, so it's at the bottom of. This is like this. So, okay. Oh, it's right there. Okay. All right, so the plug is right here. This has got to go. Let's see if we can. Oops. Where we at here? Okay, here we go. Get this kind of down in here. This. Get this plug. Turn around here. Okay. Out. Backwards. Maybe I have this on backwards. Maybe it goes like that. Okay. All right. So like I had said yesterday, these clips, even though I lost the gray locking clamp, they snap in. I just heard it snap in. It will not come out. So, don't be freaked out if you lose the locking pin like I did. It's still going to be okay. Let's get our union in here where it needs to be. Okay. All right, so this little plastic thing came off of the fan for the belt. So what we have to do is kind of get this in a little bit sideways to get the belt on. Make sure your union is in there. And lift this into place. The belt on, the unions on. And then this has to just move up to the dowel pins. There's 2 dowel pins. There we go. Woo! Get one of these snugged in here. So yeah, you put the belt on first. You kind of get it kitty corner. You put the belt on, and then make sure your union is in there. And I'm almost 100% sure. I'm gonna get underneath there real quick just to double check, but I'm pretty 100% sure the union went into where it was supposed to go. And then we'll get these just hand tight for now. There's 2 dowel pins on the top that guide it in. We'll just go ahead and get these just snug down. Don't torque them. And then there's 2 on the bottom that I'll snug up here. I'm going to go ahead and check that union. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. This one's going to go here. And then we got our lower one. Okay, I'll get underneath it with my light. Make sure I'm still recording. Okay. Now I think things are going to go a little bit smoother than they were earlier and yesterday. Okay, the union is fine. The plug is plugged in. Okay. Oh, yeah, snug those 2 on the bottom. Getting the 2 on the bottom right now. I'm trying to hold my light. Okay, that one's snugged up. Might be a longer extension. Get my light in the right spot. Sorry, you guys can't see this, but this is super obvious where these bottom ones are. They're really easy to get to now that we removed that inlet pipe to the throttle body. Everything's still tight, but not bad. I need a longer extension for this. Put 2 together here. Okay. This one. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so they're all snugged up, so we'll go ahead and torque them now. Right down there. Okay. Just a quick double check. Got those. Okay, I think we're ready to torque the water pump down. Let's go ahead and do that. Snug these just a little bit more so they're all finger tight. Okay, so there's a certain order that they have to be torqued to. Oh, let me get my adapter. Okay, so the first one that gets torqued is the upper right, which would be this one here. Actually, not upper right, but it's this one. Okay, and then the second one is right here. Okay, and then the third one is down on the bottom, which would be this one, straight down from this one, straight down on the bottom. Charles, the humble mechanic, on his video, he's got really good, he shows the whole thing really good. Oh. Take one of these extensions off. A little bit harder down here. Okay. And then, let's see, that was number 3, and then 4 is this one in the middle on the upper. Get it started here. Okay, and then number 5 is the last one on the bottom. So those are 9 Newton meters. I'm going to hit them one more time. Two. I'm hitting them just a hair more. Feels awfully a light torque. But I don't think a hair mower is going to cause a problem. Okay. I'll fast forward through some of this. Okay, this is number 4. We'll get the last one down here. That will be all tied up. If I can get to this one again. Alright, 9 Newton meters. That's not very much. Okay, the water pump is torqued down. We can go ahead and belts on. Belts nice and snug and tight. That's all torqued down. We're looking good. Okay, let's go ahead and let me put that lower hose on first. This one. I wonder if I should put that. Yeah, it's lower hose should go on first. think I can actually get this down where it was before. Okay, get this one out real quick. Okay, take number 14. Okay, so yeah, I was kind of right. The high pressure fuel line has to be off. Here it is right here. That has to be off before you can mount this. It wants to hit and catch. So this is going to have to be put back on. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a new gasket on it. The new gasket here, we'll get that on first. Careful of this vacuum line so you don't break it. Go ahead and pull that old one off. This might have been able to be reused, but I just, I don't like risking that stuff. You just never know. Squeeze out just like that. Get the new one here. You don't want to go through all this work and then find out that the old gasket's leaking. But, I mean, if you look at it, it's probably fine. It still looks pretty. It is a little hard compared to this one I just got. So, I mean, this is definitely smoother. Okay, so let's look and see how these go. Okay, so it's going to have these little tabs. It's going to only fit in one way. There's a tab right here. There's a little cutout for the tab. So it only goes one way. Just kind of fits right in here. That goes a little weird, but okay, it's time to sit in there. Just kind of press these in. These things are real tight. Yeah. Just make sure that it's seated in the channel all the way around here. If it's not quite completely seated, as long as it's in the channel when you tighten it, it'll all get tightened down. Okay, so that's in now. So now we got the electrical connector. We need to get. And there we go. So I already got the vacuum line where it needs to go, which is through here. So like I said earlier, take a picture of this vacuum line. I couldn't remember if it went behind here, if it went across in front of this. It goes right through like this. So good thing to take pictures, stuff like that. Let's get this electrical connector. So this one we got on there first. Ratchet here. And these are those plastic threaded nuts. So try to get them in straight before you start tightening them. Make sure we're on tightening mode. Yeah. What we'll do is get this on here and then get this second one before we tighten that one, because these have to line up. Oh, whew, I'm forgetting a very important thing, folks. Okay, these are the mistakes that I make. I forgot to put the cover on the belt. So that's what we're doing next. So we're going to pull this off real fast. Whew. Get ahead of myself, and it's not so it's easy when you're doing videos because you sometimes forget some important little steps, but that's okay. You guys can watch all the mistakes I make and not do them yourself. So let's go ahead and carefully get this snake back out of here again. Okay, so now this cover. So we got this upper one, easy to get to. This one was kind of a booger. You heard me cussing last time. But I think it's going to be easier going in than out. We'll see. I'm going to say that. And there is some coolant inside here. Get this thing kind of cleaned up. So this thing, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll pull the camera off so you can. And you guys, if you're doing this, you probably know what I'm talking about. But you know, down below, there's like a fan on the upper sprocket, the water pump sprocket, and it's a cooling fan, is what that does. It probably cools the bearing on that, and so that's why this has a vent, this upper part, because it goes like this, has this cooling vent, and those are the fins. So when you get one from the factory, it's going to have this yellow piece on it. That's just a protective piece while you're installing it, and then this comes off. Make sure you don't leave that on, because then you won't have any cooling fins to fin. That's why I'm sure they paint it yellow or cast it in yellow. So, all right. So let me get this back on. I'm going to go ahead and pause this because that one's pretty self-explanatory. It just basically goes in here. And oh, okay. So the one thing I've noticed is it looks like okay, so they've already got the bolts in here for that one, which kind of sucks. I wish I would have paid more attention. I would have taken them out. So there's this one. This one, sorry, I'm checking camera. This one up here needs to come out, and then the one down below. I wish I would have done that. So here's another mistake I made. When you're installing these, take the two bolts out. This one here, the upper one, and then there's this lower one. Take those out before you get the water pump installed. Then you don't have to do what I'm doing, which is now get back underneath there and get that stupid little one out of there. We'll go ahead and pop this upper one real quick. The thing about this plastic stuff is the torque specs on these is so light. You're like, God, how could that even be tight? How could that not leak? But it definitely does. Okay, I can get underneath here. I'll pause this because I'm sure it's going to take me a while. Okay, take number 14. All right, so we're back at it, and I did, and as I was talking about in the last video, I forgot to put the shroud for the belt, the plastic shroud, so that got installed. And then I was having a hard time getting the rear nut that holds it down because there was some wires and hoses in the way, and I could not get my little 1/4-inch ratchet in there. So I made a little makeshift tool. It's the T30 1/4-inch, and I just stuck a this is actually a 1/4-inch standard little wrench on it. It just, you know, sometimes you got to make your own homemade little tools to get into tight little areas. So that's something you can do if you're having a spot. There's been a couple times on this water pump replacement where I've had to make my own tools. So, all right, just wanted to show that. So now we're going to go ahead and get the intake manifold on. I've double checked everything. The water hoses are all reconnected to the water pump. I've checked my connectors. So here's the 3 connectors that go to the intake manifold, or 4. There's 4 of them, 2 small ones, 2 larger ones, and then this one goes to the throttle body. So that's ready to go. And I've got my gasket, my new gasket installed into the intake manifold. So yeah, we're gonna get this sucker going here. So first we're gonna feed this vacuum line in. There's a little clip there. It doesn't really stay in there very well, but so this went underneath this. That's why I took pictures of all this. Let's see here. There it goes. This, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's just a little weird little tweak there. So, let's get all these connectors out. Just kind of look. We're going to make sure that all this is going to still be where it needs to be. It's going to end up going into that. That's in the right position. Vacuum line is going to be in the right position here. Seems to be nothing hitting. So now what we need to do is get the high pressure fuel line in. This should be fun. Make sure I'm, yeah, okay, so we're in the right position here. Make sure I miss all the wires here. you're kind of blind here getting this in, and then you, okay, maybe if I move my hand here, this would help. Okay, I think we're on an electrical line here, so we're going to have to go on back. Okay, that seems to free up the connection. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we've got, I guess we're going to have to do this top one and then this one. Let me get this one started up top. I'm just going to get a couple threads on it there so it kind of holds itself. And then we're going to have to get this bottom on. So the little nipple, let's see if we can get this maybe a little bit tighter. Okay, so that just kind of sets in there. And you got to try to get your fingers in here and get it started. If you lift up on this, you can kind of see, I think it would help. Yeah, let's see. Got to get it lined up to the threads. Well, I think we got it started, so that's a good thing. It's really hard to get your hands in here. It's really, okay, yeah, okay, we got it started. Get this one snug. Okay, so now we can tighten that up. Okay. You know, before I was able to get my long 17 in here, so we're gonna try again. Now, these don't have to be crazy tight because it is brass. Let's see. Gotta get it to where I can get on it. You can see this pretty good. Just having a hard time trying to get my wrench on it here. Let's see. I have to get my little stubby. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm maxed out there. I have to come down here. Okay. I think that should be plenty tight. These fittings don't need to be crazy tight, but we'll make sure they're not leaking. I don't want to over torque it. Okay, I think we're good. Let's try one more. Okay. All right, so that's on. So let's go ahead and, okay, so on this pipe is, let's see, what does that go to? Not here. There is a rubber clamp. Trying to remember where that bolted to. I thought, oh, it goes into the manifold. That's right. Okay. Uh-oh, did I get this backwards? I think not. Let's see. Okay. No, I think it goes like this. There it goes. Okay. This could probably get put on after we get the manifold all in place. But yeah, there is a rubber grommet and a that ends up getting screwed in here. So that's going to have to be mounted, but we can get this mounted first. Okay, you got a plug over here. Got to make sure that's going to be in the right position. So make sure the wire is free for that. Looks like there's plenty of room, so it's not going to get bound up there. Make sure that your manifold is all free and there's like no hoses. I think we're good to go ahead and get these nuts and bolts in. So I'm going to pause this for a second. I'm going to get all the bolts in. So what I'm going to do, so you guys can see this, is a lot of times to try to get these in, what's going to end up happening when you have to go through these little holes. Can you guys see that? Yeah, I think you can see those holes. So there's little holes that these have to go through, and I don't want them to fall off of here. So what I've done in the past, and it's worked pretty well, is you just take a little piece of like rubber glove, and what I would do is take a pair of scissors and cut a little section out. But what I would do is end up putting a little rubber on there and then poking that on there, and it will stay on there, and it gives me enough time and enough grip, might be a couple layers, to be able to get that through. And it won't be the full glove, it'll just end up being just a portion of this to be able to get those started, and then I'll pull this off, and then hopefully I can capture that piece of rubber. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, get all these in, and then we'll torque them down. Okay, so I thought I would just show you what I'm doing here with this. So one thing I do like to do, especially I know when I did Jonathan's Mark 6, it was really hard because they have these access holes to get these bottom ones in. And in a Mark 6 5-cylinder manifold, this is really freaking tight. And I had to buy a certain size socket just to get it to slide through there. So if you're doing a Mark 6, make sure before you get going on the project of like, we were doing the oil filter housing, which was underneath the manifold, had to come off. Make sure the one you have is going to fit through that. These holes are rather large, so there's plenty of play in it. But yeah, if you're doing a Mark 6, make sure before you get started on removing the manifold that your little 1/4-inch socket with the T30 is going to fit through the hole. So what I like to do is I take this rubber glove, just a little piece of it, and then what happens is when you go to put this screw on, you just kind of hold it on, it kind of grips it, and then you're able to go into the hole very carefully. These are pretty easy because there's actually a spot where you can see there's quite a bit of space in here. So you could literally do it without the glove. But if it drops, now sometimes it could drop down in here underneath, and now you're trying to fish it out. And if you can't get it out, now you got to pull the intake off. So there's a little extra reassurance. And then just get these started. We're just getting all these hand tight for now. Just get it snugged up in there. And then what I can do is just grab this little piece of rubber, pull this out. And see, I also take black tape, and let's see if you can see that. Take a little black tape, and this keeps the socket from coming off. This extension's rather old, and it's pretty sloppy. So that keeps it all together, and then you got that. So I'm going to just finish putting these in. I'll go ahead and record it. You guys can fast forward through it. This is pretty standard. Okay, I think we got two more that are kind of hidden here. We got one down here. This is where it works really well. If I didn't have that rubber glove piece on there, then this thing could literally just fall into the abyss down there. The engine abyss. Okay, and let me grab my needle nose, push my little blue rubber glove out of there. And then we got one more on the bottom. Stick it on. I like to double it up on these. And then just press that on there. Just kind of press it on. This one's a little bit. We got her in there. Yep. Might not be able to get that little piece of rubber. Sometimes you might have to sacrifice it in place. But let's see if we can't. I can get my pick in there. Grab it with my pick here. I think I can. Well, this one was. Oh, it fell down. Down here. Okay, now it fell on the floor. Okay, now we can just do the top. And I don't know if we'll need any of these. You can probably just push in from up here. So this is a really cool thing, a little bonus thing that probably won't do, but it's kind of interesting. But if you look at these manifolds, they've got these sections up here, right here. These are designed, this manifold can be used, this is like a European manifold, but it's standard between the United States and Europe. In Europe, they have some of these engines that have port injection. So they have little injectors right here. And I watched a video the other day on YouTube, a kit that you can retro port injection onto this engine. They sell, the company sells a kit. I'll see if I remember at the end of this, I will post that video. It's kind of cool. That would limit the carbon on the intake valves. Not sure why they didn't bring that to the United States. Had something to do with either emissions or something, but it looks like you can buy the kit and have that done, and then you would never have to worry about cleaning the intake manifold. But I have 100,000, almost 100,000 miles on this car, and I just pulled this off for the first time. It's not great, but where the valves are, there's a little bit of junk on the upper sides of where the intake valves slide through the guides, but down where the valves are actually really clean. So I was kind of impressed. Okay. All right. So now we're doing the same thing. 9 Newton meters. If I can find my torque wrench. Here it is. Set for 9. So the way you're supposed to do these is work from the inside out. So I'm going to go here. Let's come down and do this bottom one first. So yeah, make sure you don't have any obstructions, that this is laying flat in here before you start tightening this down. Come up here now, get some of these just a little bit tighter. Okay, we'll go back down. We're smashing this gasket. There's 9 Newton meters right there. Right there. Okay. This one's hard to see on the side, but it just kind of goes. This is what's nice about putting a little black tape holding your socket in, so when you go to pull it out, it doesn't get stuck in that position. That would be another thing. If I was in this one over here where you're kind of blind and this thing stuck into it, now I'm having a hell of a time trying to get that back out of there. So Just be careful. Okay. And I'm reusing these bolts. They might be torque to yield, but the torque is so minor. So we're going to go back through them again. I always like to give it a little slight turn. And maybe it's at 10 Newton meters, but yeah. Okay, intake manifold tight. Let's get all the electrical connectors back in. This one is tight here. Let's see, I might have to do that with a needle nose. Okay. This one's, I just do not have fingers for that. Okay, so that one clicked in, and then there's the little gray tab. And you just push that little gray tab in. I hate the little gray tab thing. Not sure what the whole deal with that is. I think that's in. Okay. Yep, that one's locked in. Okay, now we've got these connectors here. Let's see, make sure my vacuum hose is where it needs to be. Okay, one thing I want to do first before we finish the electrical connectors, I'm going to get this rubber grommet on the fuel line lined up, and we'll get that screw into here. Okay. And this is another. Okay, so what am I have to do to get this? I don't know. This one kind of goes at a weird angle. Oh, that's right. I had to pull this back. Okay, so let me try to get that one started. Okay, so what I had to do. Oh, this is a T25. Okay. Sure. Kept these in here. I think this is the last one. So it's just T25. Okay, that's kind of weird. Okay, so this one here goes to, so you got the high pressure fuel line, and then down here is a rubber grommet. That one feels pretty solid. So what we're going to do is, so what you have to do is this charge pipe is unbolted, so you're going to have to make yourself a little bit of room. I'm going to put the little rubber glove trick on this thing. Same deal. So it don't fall off. Pull that back and try to get this into place. So there it goes. But to get on it, you have to pull that back. Okay, so we got on it, so that's good. It's off just a hair, but enough to get it tight. Now, like I said, this is a little plastic thing. But yeah, if you pull back on this, you can get it now, you can get it straight. Okay, that's all needed for that. And we can go back to charge pipe here. Oh, okay, so this, okay, right now, I don't know if you can see it. Pretty sure you can. So on this vacuum line right here is a little Christmas tree fastener. So there's this metal black bracket. This goes into the open hole that's left. Just like that. and then it comes into here. So what I had to do is loosen this fitting here to get this vacuum line to slide underneath here. So I might have to loosen the whole thing. Yeah, I had to pull this off. So pull this fastener out of here. Okay, and lift it up just a little bit to get that vacuum line in there. Okay, and then that vacuum line obviously goes right here where it was. And then we can put the fastener back in for that. And that's a T30. Okay, I think I'm done with this long extension. Okay, we'll get this one tightened up. Oh, is that a T25? Or is that a T30? Okay, that's a T25. Okay, that's back on. All right, vacuum line's back on. Let's go ahead and get these electrical connectors in their places here. That one clicked in. There's another one with, so this back one does not have the gray connector. That one's in. That one, and then we've got this one down here. Those are all locked in. This one goes to this. Oh, okay. Let's see. I know that went down to there. Let's see. So I got a little bit of blue tape. So I was telling you guys earlier, sometimes I'll put blue tape on these so I don't forget them. Let's go ahead and get. I know this one. Oh, here it is, right here. Okay, so this one. On the bottom of the manifold is this plastic flange. This little gripper just connects to that. This holds that wire up out of the place. And then we've got this one here that holds the charge pipe up. That's looks like a T30. Okay, got that. Then we got these two here. So these two I left in here so I wouldn't forget them. Oh, and now it's on the ground. Take both of these out. This just kind of comes up here. Oh, this thing is, I zip tied that. So if you want really good zip tie cutters, these little pruners, you can get these like on eBay. They're for like pruning garden plants and stuff. I can't remember what brand this was, but they make them. They look just like this. And these are the best zip tie cutters ever. You can get a little zip tie like that. You can get really close to them. So get yourself a pair of these. This one's made by ARR. Looks like ARS. ARS. These are good ones. I've had these forever. This one. $230 again, it looks like. Okay. Oh, hopefully I didn't tighten that too soon. Let me get the charge pipe on here. Make sure I didn't accidentally. Let's come back. I'll leave that right there so I don't forget where I'm at. So the charge pipe still needs to go on the throttle body. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and pause this. So the charge pipe goes back on. I think I showed you earlier in the video. The charge pipe has the rubber hose that goes on here. And then down below there's a plastic one and there's 2 screws. And oh, yes. Okay, I did. Oh my goodness gracious. I did forget something very important. Forgot to put this screw into here. So now I'm going to probably have to take this bracket out and get that lined up. That was a major fail. Don't forget when you put the manifold on to get that screw in there. This could be another one of my disasters. Okay, so I was able to easily get underneath there and get this bracket. So yeah, you're watching a lot of fails by me. I guess maybe that's a good thing for you guys so you don't do the same thing. But yeah, this needs, when you put this intake manifold on, this stud needs to go through this bracket, and then it's got this 13 right here that goes on it. Right here, get that threaded on. Get that tight. Okay, that's tight. I'm going to go ahead and do the charge pipe next. So basically what we have is we've got this, which ends up, let me just go on here. I get this, oh, that goes like that. So this is going to go on, then this is going to go on here. This gets fastened into here. I think I can actually put that. Here's a, okay, I thought there was another electrical, the electrical connector. Okay, so this one's got to get connected. That's for the inlet pipe to, there's another electrical connector you can't see on camera. It goes into the connector, into the radiator, and there's another coolant temperature sensors. So don't forget to plug that in. This gets put back on here. It sits in there like that. Here's our vacuum hose for the air box. Here's this for the air box. We go pretty good. I think we just need to get, and then we'll get this mounted back up once I get the air intake on that goes to the charge pipe down below. I'll screw that up. And then I think we're going to be getting pretty close to filling this up, but we're going to try to do a adaptation on OBD11. I'll go through that process. There's some people that say that it's not necessary, that you can do it without it, but we'll give it a try, and then I'll show you. So let me pause that while I get the intake pipe on, and then I'll start again. All right, so I finally got the water pump all done, filled it up full of fluid. There's no leaks, thank God. And everything went well, except it took a while for the heat to come on. And I had mentioned earlier that I thought I was going to have to do an adaptation for the thermostat housing. I went into OBD11, checked the engine. It's under engine control units, under engine temperature actuator, and it just says that it couldn't read them. couldn't read them. I don't know why. But after running the engine for a bit, I was squeezing the hoses down here to try to get the air out, turning the engine off, went to go do some research on what I wasn't getting heat in the cab. And after a few minutes, came back out, started it up, and it got heat again. I've watched quite a few videos. The Humble Mechanic video, he does it on VCDS. Talks about doing the engine thermal actuation on OBD11. I tried to do it. I couldn't do it. On the gentleman from Deutsch Auto Parts, when he does his video on replacing the water pump, he doesn't do any adaptation at all. I saw a bunch of other videos. Go to the end of the video of water pump replacements. Nobody was doing adaptation, so I don't think you have to do it. I think the car kind of automatically does it. So everything seems to be working. I'm going to go take it for a test drive, and I think we're good to go. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. It was kind of a struggle. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm hoping that by doing these videos, you guys can see the mistakes I make so that you won't do the same thing. And maybe that'll help everybody. So yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Have a good day.